And I'll hit this. And we should be good to go. All right, so today we're going to go through basically just the general settings inside the item database. We've covered some of that last month, so that's going to be just a little bit of a refresher. Creating favorites, we did that last month as well, but I'll just kind of go over that again. Grid view, how that works a little bit inside of item database. Searching in the item database using the search tool for finding stuff inside of there. We're going to be going through setting up a template that you could reuse inside the item inventory. So that way, if you have a template built for, say, salads or something like that, you could just reuse it throughout. Every time you create a new one that already has the modifiers and whatnot on it.
Okay.
Pricing methods. Once again, we covered some of that last month, but we'll go through that again, as well as setting up price levels. Categories, how they affect reports, event maintenance, and then backing up your restaurant data. So kind of what we're going to be going through this morning. Like I said, it's going to be a lot of the same from last month, but a few new things as well. So inside of Aloha Manager, I already logged in here. It is we're going to be going into the maintenance menu items area, which is where I'm in already, and I'm just going to go into the. Let me move this out of my way because you probably can't see, but I got to go to meeting thing here. It's kind of blocking my view. So okay, there we go. So inside of here, under the general settings tab is what we want to cover. Just some settings as far as when you set up a new item, how it reacts inside the system, when you ring it up, and report on it. So when you have a new item in your inventory or an existing item in your inventory, and you go to the general settings tab, let me find an item in here, the lobster bisque will work. Under the general section, you have revenue item. Revenue items would be something that you ring up in your system that you don't want to report in your sales. So we have customers, what they do is they will do a banquet deposit, and they have to take the money in somehow, but they don't want to report on it. They don't want it to affect their sales because they want that to affect the sales the day they have the banquets. So they'll create an item that's a revenue item that when you ring it up in your point of sale, it allows you to tender it, but it doesn't report in any of your sales categories. So that way you just take that money in, you have that as cash on hand to balance your drawer, but you don't have it apply towards your sales until you go back and redeem it a few days or a month later, whatever it is. This is just for any item that don't want to affect your sales.
Okay.
No gratuity. Basically, if you flag this, it does not, when you apply a gratuity to a check, this is not included in that percentage. So if you were to ring up a gratuity of 20%, and this was one of the items that was on it, the 20% would not be applied towards that item that's flagged.
Okay.
Guest count weight. So I don't know if you do this, but some places track their guest counts based off of items rung. So if you were to have say if you wanted to track by all your entrees, the number of guests, you could have on here one guest for every time this is rung up. So that way your guest count would be based off of 2 of these lobster bisques were rung up, you'd have 2 guests. If you had an item that was a 2-for-1 meal, you may make this guest count a 2. So that way every time this item was rung up, it would apply 2 guests towards your guest count.
Okay.
Make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, no questions yet.
Okay. Labels. Label is, if you are doing any type of delivery, you could have a label printout that goes onto the package. So if you needed a label to print out whenever you rung up a pizza that had the customer's information on it, you could set it on this and it would print out the label.
Okay.
Product mix report multiplier. If you wanted this item to apply multiple times in your product mix, let's go back to the example where it is a 2-for-1 meal. You may want to put a 2 in here, so every time this was reported inside your product mix, it'll count as 2 inside of there instead of just 1.
Okay.
Video. This is for kitchen video. Do you have kitchen video in your restaurant?
No, we don't.
No? Okay, I'll just go over this real quickly then. Don't show the item. If you ring this up, it doesn't show up on the kitchen video. This would be good in a revenue item instance where you were just taking in a payment and didn't really ring anything up. You don't want that to go back to the kitchen, so it won't show it. Do not show a summary sell of the items, so don't include it in the total counts of items on the check if it were rung up. Do not show if it's a modifier to an item. print independently if it's a modifier. Basically, you want it on its own cell, and do not show on summary cell when a modifier. So don't include that in your counts on the modifier or summary cell.
Okay.
Once again, all just kitchen video stuff, not going to apply to you.
Yeah.
Recipe information. Last time we covered about how you set up a recipe. This is where you configure it on the item. So auto display recipe means every time I ring up this item, it's going to show the recipe for that item. It's good for a new bartender. They ring up an item, they don't know how to make any of the drinks. It'll display the recipe every single time they ring it up.
Okay.
Print recipe frequency, how many times you want it to print when you do print out the recipe, if you need 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. So I don't know why you'd need more than one, but you might want to print multiple times if you were to print it. Recipe text. This is where you set up the text for the recipe. So all the information about how to make this item goes right into this box here.
Okay.
You can also set that up as a recipe file that if you wanted to do that, I could teach you separately, but if you had a bunch of recipes in Notepad already that you wanted to save them as a recipe file, instead of having to copy and paste them all into here, I could show you how to do that if you wanted to go down that route.
Oh, okay, that would be cool.
Yeah, pretty simple. We could set that up for another time to go through that. It's not that difficult at all.
Yeah, I can't wait to play around with that key.
Yeah, what I would do is I would set some up in here, just like copy and paste in here, just to see a couple of them how they work. And then once you've done that, if you like it, I'll go through how to set up the text files for you, so you can just copy them real quickly. Is the way you do it is you name it. I think it's RCP and then the item number. So this item number here with an RCP before it .txt, and you would drop it into the recipe folder inside of the Aloha folder, and it'll link them automatically. So it's a pretty simple process to go through.
Okay.
Recipe bitmap, if you wanted an image, so if you took a picture of the item and you wanted to link it inside of here so it came up every single time so they know what it's going to look like when they present it, you would go in here and link the bitmap itself, the image itself.
Okay.
Same with the movie. If you wanted to record a video of how to prepare the item, you could link it inside of here. You'd have to import it into Aloha, but you can link them inside of here so that way every time they hit it, it would show the video of it playing how to prepare that item.
Okay, that's cool.
So that is the settings area. Favorites. Favorites is the next area. Any questions on these general settings?
Nope.
Okay. Favorites, I believe we did cover last month, but we'll go through them quickly here. On the side here, every time you log in, you have your favorites option. You can go ahead and add things that are unique to what you want to do in the system, so when you log in, you see them. Right now, you have employee summary and audits, but say if I wanted to add a product mix in here, because I run a product mix every single time I log into the system, or pretty regularly, I can right-click on there and choose Customize, and go into the Reports area, and find that product mix report that I want, and just drag it over to my favorites. So now that if I choose OK, you're going to see product mix in here. Every time I log into the system, I'll be able to click on that and pull up the product mix report without having to go through, reports, point of sale, product mix. It'll pop up there as soon as I click that link. And once again, it's unique to you. So if someone else were to go in here, set up a bunch of favorites, they'll only see theirs, where you'll only see yours inside of here that you set up.
Okay. So how do I start that? Can you just do the steps again?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you do the steps, the favorites, the first? How do you?
Okay, so all you do.
Okay.
So generally, when you go inside of here, it's either going to be on the favorites already, or you're going to have the open tasks option open here, which is all the different windows you have open. So you're going to make sure you're in favorites, so the favorites is highlighted.
Okay.
You're going to right-click on the white area inside of here and choose Customize with the left mouse button.
Okay.
And then once you're in here, you can just drill into whatever you want to add. So I'll add items to here as well, because every single time you go in, you got to add specials. You click on here and you drag it into the area you want.
Okay.
And choose OK. And you can sort this as well. So if I wanted items at the top, I can do that. And now items is at the top of the list. So every time I come in, I can click on that and it'll bring up this items view.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So navigating and configuring grid view. Have you worked in grid view before?
No, not at all.
So inside of the items area, you have the ability to go not only into a form view here where it has all these fields, but you can go into a grid view. So let me save this.
Yeah, so I can. Yeah.
So now you have all your items in a grid view, kind of like Excel, and you can edit groups of items once you're inside of here. So say if I
Okay.
wanted to go in and set modifiers for a group of items to all be the same, I can go to the modifier tab, and let's click on all these items that I want the modifier on. I'll highlight all
Really?
these, and if I were to go into this top one here and say I want the modifier for wing sauce on all of these,
Okay.
it will change all of them in the list that you had highlighted.
Okay.
And this works for all fields. So you could even change, if you wanted to change the name on the lawn name for everything, you can go in here and change it, and it would select all the ones underneath it. And let me save this so I can do that. Under item. So if I were to do all these and change this one to wings, once I hit enter on that, all those change to wings.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
this is nice for not only like being able to change item names, but pricing, categories, modifiers. That way you don't have to do every single one. You can just do a group of them as you go through them to adjust them all at once. And then once you're done, you save it, and you get the option here at the top to go back to normal view, and now you're in normal view again.
Okay. So say I wanted to go through, you know how you can do highest to lowest and put the appetizers first and your entrees last. Can I use the grid to do that?
For priorities, for like,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. So if I were to go into here and say I wanted to make all these items that we just called wings priority number 1, I can go into here and got to go over and find it. Where is it? External on export ID. I know it's in here. Oh, there it is, right there. So, okay, they're already set as 1, so let me change them to 255, so they're at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Okay.
I could do that, and now they're all going to be at number 255. So you can go through that. They don't have to be in a group together. I can go through and just select individual ones by holding down the control key and just selecting one at a time. And once again, if I were to change this to a different number, so we'll do 215, they'll all change to 215.
Okay, so I hold control key to do that.
Yep.
All right.
And if you want to do
Cool.
if you want to do a group of them that are together, you hold down the shift key. Or if you want to just select individual ones as you go through, you hold down the control key and click each individual one on its own.
Okay, that's nice. That's going to make life easier.
Yep.
Okay.
And each one of these inside of here have a grid view, and it contains all the items that are inside those settings, probably a couple more as well that you don't normally go into. But like once again, you can go in here and set up your printing if you wanted. If you were doing a quick count, you could set that up. All of them have grid view, and you just need to save it once you're done to get back to normal view.
Okay. That's awesome.
Okay, so search tools. Any questions on grid view?
Nope.
Okay, search. So Aloha has a search feature inside of most of the areas inside of it. So if you were to go into employees, labor, stuff like that, you have the search box right up here at the top. I'm going to focus on items now, but this box exists in almost every single screen you go into that has multiple items in it. And I want to search on, let's just say fries. That's a pretty easy example. Anything that has the word fries in it, because I want to make sure it's spelled right, or I'm looking for one specific type of fry, I can type in fries and hit enter in that box. And now it's going to search through the entire item database, and it should, once it comes back, just give me the results that have fries in it. So if I pull down from this list, it's going to show all the fries items there in the database with the numbers right here. And say if I wanted to just change the truffle fries, I can select that one, and I can go through and make a change there. So I don't want that to be happy hour truffle fries anymore. I'll remove them and save it. That also works in grid view, which makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to cancel the search and go into grid view. And now I'm going to do fries. And now instead of having to pull down from that list, it's going to show everything in grid view that have the word fries in it.
Okay.
So there you go. So if you wanted to, let's just say you started adding all your items in here with the word APP in front of it. So it's all the apps. And you have that on
Okay.
either the long name or the short name, whatever area you want to put that in. You can now go into the search feature and type in APP, and it's going to bring up all your appetizers. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to find items in the database instead of having to go through the items and looking for them.
Okay. So what if I have multiple things and I want to delete an option?
Give me an example.
Like, say I have a lot of fries listed here, and I want to take out the 2 fries because it's redundant. I don't know why there's 2 in, and I want to take it out.
So it's pretty easy to delete it, but it's going to run into possibly one problem, and it's going to tell you what you need to do to fix it. So if I wanted to get rid of this golden fries, I should be able to just highlight it and hit delete. Now, keep in mind, if you hit delete and it lets you do it, it's not going to. First of all, you don't want to do this on a day that you may have rung that up. If you've rung this up in the system and you delete this item, any refreshes is going to crash your system because it won't know how to report on that item you deleted. So anything you delete, don't do a refresh. Let it go in overnight. Overnight will be fine, but if you refresh it and it was rung up that day, your system's going to crash. However, if you try to delete this now, and I'm going to choose yes, what it's going to do is it's going to come up and say you have a problem. And the problem is you have it set up in your routing right now and you have it on a submenu. So you have to fix those things, meaning you have to remove it from item routing and you have to remove it from the submenu.
Okay.
So you would go into maintenance, hardware, I believe it is. Nope. Just trying to think of where routing is.
Menu routing?
Item routing for like kitchen routing.
Okay.
So why am I not seeing it here? Oh, item routing. It's right there. I've looked at it twice. So you would want to go into here, find that item in the list, and remove it. So that way it was no longer showing up in your item routing. So if I were to go in and what item was that item number? That was item number 1408. I'm going to go in here and find 1408, and I'm going to remove that so it's no longer listed in my item routing, and save that. And no, I'm not going to do a real-time update right now. And if I try to delete that again, it's still going to say it's on a modifier group. So right now it's under the modifier group or submenu 7. So now I got to delete it off of there. So I'm going to go into submenus, and I'm going to find submenu number 7, and I need to find that 1408 on here. So there it is. I can remove it from there, save that, and now if I go back into items, it should let me delete it.
Okay, so it's definitely a process.
So it's a process.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to let you remove it from something else that's already using it. So you need to pay attention to what it says you need to do, whether it's item routing, take it off a modifier screen, take it off of a submenu, do those things, and then it'll let you delete it. If it's items that are just... Go ahead.
There's a lot of items that I ran on our PMI that they're the same item, but they're 2 different item numbers. So I want to go through and get rid of the item numbers that we don't use.
So what you probably want to do is there may be a reason for those. So if you were to do that, you're going to want to make sure, and this is going to be a process, when you get that report, kind of go through it and say, okay, it's on the submenu that's called sides and sauces. Does it need to be on there? Are you still using it? And if so, you may want to change it to the other golden fries that was on there. So you can go into submenus, and now I want to put, instead of having that 1408 on there, I'm going to use just the 1 golden fries, and that's going to be 1405. So now that's the one I'm going to be able to use on here. I'll set the price on it to $4.99. And now that's going to show up for your servers after a refresh or end of day, and the other one will be gone. Now that also applies, that's also going to cause you some issues with possibly historical reporting as well. So going forward, you could look at your previous product mixers reports and see both those golden fries on there. But going forward, you're not going to see that other one anymore. So your reports might be a little bit skewed because you might have been ringing up 2 different items before, and now it's just going to be the one.
Okay. All right.
So that is searching inside of the item database. Any questions? Do you want me to go over deleting items again? Just kind of cover that one more time?
No,
Okay.
I've played around with it before, but I just wanted to see if there was an easier way
Okay.
to do it.
Now, there really isn't, because it's linked to other items in the database. And if you don't go through the process of fixing that, it's going to cause you problems. I've seen people go into the back end and delete items out. But what happens is the button still exists, not linked to any item in the database, and your server will try to hit it, and it may just do nothing, or it may crash Aloha. You just really want to be careful about how everything's linked inside the system.
Right. Well, my biggest thing is like the beer and liquor. For some reason, when we're looking at PMIs, there's two different item numbers, and there really shouldn't be, because it's only one item.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to figure out.
And that's one thing you might want to look at is sometimes the items themselves, especially in liquor, from a reporting perspective, some liquors that are in there, maybe like a vodka, maybe just I want a vodka with a mixer, and that's what that item's used for. But then the vodka types might be on a mixed drink, and you have to select that. So one might be a main item, one might be a modifier. You can use the same one. You just want to be aware that if you're reporting on those, one might be one shot, one might be two shots. It might affect how you're reporting on those different things. That's why they're set up separately.
Okay, so one number is like the modification, one is just if that's what they're getting. Okay,
Correct.
that makes it a little bit more fun.
And that's probably the reason why they're both in there. And you could fix it, but it's going to change the way it reports for you.
Okay, no, that makes sense now. Because when we're looking at the PMIs, we're always like, well, why is it listed twice? Mm-hmm. But that makes sense, because it's tracking the modifiers too. Okay.
Yep, that's why it's in there.
Okay.
And one of the things we do as part of this training, going into how to set up categories for product mix, I can show you a way that might help you reporting on those multiple items. So something we can look at as well.
Okay.
Okay, so we went through searching, using items as a template. So let me go back into form view here. And I'm going to delete this. So most of our databases, and it looks like including yours, has a header for each section, and that's the way it should be, because that way you know what items to put where. So as I scroll through here, you're going to see your kid breakfast, and you have a blank spot inside of here. And the kid breakfast is a header. If you wanted to add one more kid breakfast item, you could put it right here, and it would still be within that same grouping. The one thing I don't like about how your database was set up was I program things a little bit differently. So these are set up as 3040, 3041. I like to actually put groupings of 5 in there, so it would be the first one would be 3040, 3045, 3050. So that way you have plenty of spaces in between to add new items, and you won't run out of room quite as quickly. Just more of a preference as to how I do things versus how somebody else might have. The nice thing about what they did was they gave you a bunch of blank areas inside of here to add items, so that way you don't have to do a new item. But what we want to talk about is using these headers as a template. So I set one up inside of here already for salads. Let me just find out which one that is. That is in the 2000 range. So I believe this is the one I set up. It is. Okay. So let's just say you wanted to have a template as your header for every single item that you put into the salad category. And I want to create a new salad item, but want to have all the modifiers and taxes set up already. You could go through and set that up on your header, so that way, if you wanted to copy to a new item, you can. I can go in here and I can copy this to the next available one. And in this case, it's going to be 2001. You could select from the pull-down list a different number. If I wanted to change it to 2005 or something else that wasn't in use, you can do that. Choose OK, and now on the item number 2001, instead of that being set up as your header, that could be set up as a Caesar salad.
Okay.
And what this does for you is it already has the tax on there, it already has the modifiers on there, because it copied those all off of that header. So instead of having to set up everything every single time, you could just use one as your base. So if you had one for wings, it would have all the sauces on there. If you had one for steaks, it would have all the meat temps on there. Make it just a little bit easier for you to be able to copy that to a new item without having to go through and say, okay, what modifiers does a salad normally have on it? Let me go back and forth and copy those.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, pricing method and hierarchies. So you have essentially three different ways you could price an item. Item price, button price, and a price level. So let me go through each one of those. When you set up your item, this is a new one we just created, 2001. So we can go into pricing here, and we could set the price on it to $5 and save that. And the pricing method on this is item price. If I go into my submenu or modifier screen, I can go into here, find that item, 2001, and at the item price, it automatically puts it to $5. So every time you wanted to change that item price, you would go into the item itself and change this to whatever you want it to be. If you wanted to go to $5.99 and save that, when you go back to your submenus, that's going to be $5.99 now. At least it should be once you highlight it again. So there it is, $5.99. You go to the item, it changes it. You can also make button pricing, so that way if you wanted to go after all the items within one submenu without having to find the individual items in the database, you can make them button pricing. And button pricing is where you go in and you select the button and you change it to what you want that price to be. So in this case, it's $5.99 on the button itself. Your third option is to create a price level. And a price level is a one price that could be applied to a bunch of items to make it a little bit easier for pricing instead of having to do each one individually, or worse yet, change them all later. So if you had a group of items that were a $5.99 special, you can go in and select new, like I did already here, and put the name in, $5.99 price, and the default price of $5.99. And you could limit how much you want to discount it. Like I don't want to discount it to anything less than $1. I was pretty generous with that. And the maximum price on it I'm going to charge is $5.99. I can now assign that in two different areas. I could either go into the button itself and set the price level on a couple of these. So I'm going to actually do these here. I'm going to set them both to the $5.99 price level. So they're both at $5.99. And so now down the road, the $5.99 isn't working for me. I got to make that a $6.99 price level. I can go in here and change the default price to $6.99 and save it. Whoops, I got to fix that too. And go back to that. And now those are at $6.99. So instead of having to touch each one, you just change the price level and it'll affect all the items that have the price level assigned to it.
Okay.
You could also do that at the item level as well. So when I set this up, I can say I want to price this off of a price level, and the price level is that one that I had set up. So if you're using item pricing on the button, or you don't even have it on a submenu at all, you're using like a PLU to look it up or something like that, it'll affect it when you make that change to all the items that are on that menu.
Okay.
Any questions? Do you have any reason you'd use price levels?
Well, I guess when we do menu changes, like our size and things like that, we could use it because they're always the same price.
Or you could do it with the liquors as well. So if you had a base price for well versus call or top shelf, you could do that as well. So that way all your wells are this price, and you could change them all in one swoop instead of having to go through and touch each item.
Okay.
And I named it here, $5.99, but it could be whatever you want to name it. It doesn't have to be the dollar amount there.
Okay.
Categories. So we talked a little bit about the categories before as far as you having multiple items in the database. This is setting up a generic category for those multiple items in your database or groupings of items. So if I wanted to go in here, and we're going to create one called, let's create one called burgers, I guess. And we're just choosing a general one this time where all items have to be linked to either a sales or a retail category. This is strictly a reporting category option. If you were to go into general, and let's call this one burgers, I can go in and add all the burgers to this.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to cheat here and just grab anything and throw them in there just so you can see how it works. So I would highlight them all, move them over into this area, and save it. So now I have a burgers category. Now, let me do a refresh because we need to refresh this for it to go into effect. Once the refresh is done, we can go into our product mix report and report exclusively on the burgers category, and it will only show me the burgers on their report. Now, this will help you in those areas with like the liquors we talked about. If you have 2 vodkas, if you have 2 tequilas, you can create a category called vodka and put all your vodkas or those duplicate items right into this category, and then report exclusively on that category. So that way you see them all grouped together as opposed to having to find, okay, this one's here, this one's there. It'll show them all and give you a total based off of all those items.
Okay.
And this will this goes historically as well. So any items you put in here, it'll apply to sales you ran up last week or last year as long as those items were in your database at that time.
Okay.
And that's done. So now if I were to go in here and run my, I can go back to my favorites and add my product mix report. And I can look at some dates in here, go into settings, and in here you see now that burger category is in there. If I only select include non-sales retail categories, which is what a general category is, select burgers, I can put whatever settings I want in here. I want to, print it by short name. I want to sort by the quantity sold. Save that and view it. It's going to group together. I don't have any sales in here, but it's going to group together those items that are in the category and give me a total on those, so I don't have to look at everything in my product mix report. I can only focus on that category I just built.
Okay. I like that too. Cool.
Any questions on how to set that up?
Nope.
Okay.
If I do, I'll call. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can reach out to me. I can go through it again with you.
Okay.
Event maintenance. Event maintenance, this kind of goes hand in hand with setting up specials, different prices, things like that. You have to set up 2 different areas, an activation schedule and an event schedule. So what this is, this will allow you to set a different submenu, a different price level. You can set up all different types of events. Your end of day is in here. We're going to look at an existing one in here right now. And this one is set a bar menu to the happy hour menu at 1600 hours.
Okay.
So this was set up using an activation schedule called HH menu. First thing you want to do is set up an activation schedule with the time you want on it. So on this HH menu, we set up a daily schedule that started at 1600 hours, which Aloha works off of a 36-hour clock, meaning that it's, I think I covered this last month too. At noon it goes to 1300 or is 1200 hours. 1 o'clock is 1300, and it keeps counting. At midnight is 2400 hours, and it keeps counting up until you run your end of day, or you hit noon the next day, which is noon the next day. If you hadn't run an end of day for some reason, would be 3600 hours. So you always want to base this off of military time. And it's important to know that after midnight, if you wanted to set up an event, you would set that for 2,500 hours, something like that.
Okay.
So in this case, we set one up for 1,600 hours. That's for 4 o'clock. We did that by going in and said I wanted to create either a daily, a weekly, a monthly, or a specific date. So if you wanted to set a Christmas menu, you could do that by just setting the specific date. I'll choose a weekly one. Yeah, I'm going to select the days of the week I want. Monday through Friday.
Okay, so
go ahead.
All right, so can exclude Sunday and Saturday.
Yep, you absolutely can. So that way, if your happy hour is only Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, you can absolutely just select those days only. Those are the times that it starts at. This is also the way you set it up for the time you end at. So if you create one that starts, you have to create one that ends it as well. If you flag start of day, it's going to apply to the entire day. If you unflag it, you have the ability to put your time in and set it for what time you want it to start at.
Okay.
So once you have that, you'd go into event schedule and set up what the event actually is. So you'd go to this area right here. Now, one thing to be a little careful of, a lot of people do this. You have this area here on the side with new, edit, delete. If you were to hit delete here, it gets rid of all your events in the system. You want to focus on this area right here. Because if you wanted to get rid of just one, and it happens all the time, people go into here and say, I want to remove that, hit delete, it deletes everything that's in here. You want to choose remove right there to get rid of one of the items inside of it. So be careful with that. And in this case, I want to set, we're going to activate a price level or price change. So I'm going in here, and I'm going to activate a price change that I have called training, and I can go into price changes here that I had already set up. And you go in and you create a price change, and you put what items you want to change the price on. So normally this one here is wings is $7. I want it to be $6 for this. And on this one I set up, I'm choosing it for all revenue centers, and I want it to be that training price change I just made. And I want to choose what time I want it at. That is the one we were just setting up, which was training. Save that. Price change training for all items in the revenue center, and training is going to be the activation schedule we want. And you see it puts the start time on here as 1600 hours.
Okay.
If you have the start date and end date set to none, it's going to start immediately. If you want to start at a date in the future, you could select those dates and how long it lasts. So it'll do it with this one right now. It will turn on this price change every day at 4 o'clock, starting on 11/22 and ending on 12/7.
Okay.
Now, if you want to deactivate that price change every day, you need to create an activation schedule for that. And I'm going to do a weekly one, and I want this to end every day at, say, 8 o'clock. And I want Monday through Friday because those are the only days I have it turned on. And ends training, I'll call it. If I go back to event schedule here, I can go in and disable price change. And I'm going to choose the end training one I just created. And I'm going to do this price change is going to end in all revenue centers. So I have one that starts it with a new price level. It's going to change that one price. It's going to be from 11/22 to 12/7 every day at 4 o'clock, and then it ends every single day at 2000 hours. It's going to turn that off. Basically, when it turns that off, it puts it back to the way it was.
Okay, so for that date where it says 12/7, can I just put any year because
You sure can. If you were to go in here, well, you can leave it at none. If you were to clear it and leave it at none, it's going to be forever and ever until you actually set a date on it to end it. Okay. Or if you wanted it to go through, January 1st, you could advance the year here. Okay. January 1st, and I skipped a year there, but right there, so that way, January 1st, 2019. There we go. So I could have that end at the first of the year if I wanted to choose the year itself.
Okay.
So that's how you set up. You got to set up the activation schedule first, and you set up the event that links to that, and you change to whatever event you want. You could set different menus. You could set different price levels. You could change your end of day. There's a lot of different things you could do inside of here by just going to this pull-down list and selecting which one you want to change it to. Bunch of different options in there. If you decide you want to start setting some of these up and you have specifics you want to do, like I want to set my server menu to be this every single day, you need some help with that, I can go into a little bit more specifics with you at another time. Just to let me know and we can set that up.
Sure. Yeah, because I'd like to do that for the happy hour.
Sure. Yeah. Get a list together how you want to do it, and we can kind of go through it together to make sure it works the right way you want it.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
And last but not least, backing up your database. So your database backs up twice, or it backs up twice every single day in two different ways. One, it's by creating a record of your sales data for that day, but then it also creates a backup of your entire database every single night as well. And it does that one for 5 days. So it only keeps 5 days worth. So let me kind of show you how that looks first. So every single night, the system runs its end of day, and inside of your Aloha folder on your computer, inside of boot drive, Aloha, it keeps all these data subdirectories.
Okay.
So every night when it runs its end of day, it creates a new data subdirectory that contains the sales data and a copy of your database from that day. The reason it puts the database in there as well as the sales data is if you go through and were to delete some items out of your inventory, it has a record of the way it looked the day those sales were rung, so you can still report on those items.
Okay.
So that way, if you were to go through and delete a bunch of stuff today, you can look at yesterday's report and the system will look at yesterday's item file and say, oh, okay, those items were this, and report on those. So every single one of these are in there, and it's pretty important to back up. If you were to lose these, you lose your sales data for that day. So backing up that data is probably a pretty good idea. I don't know if you have a backup set up or not. If you do, great. You could just plug it in like a USB drive and copy it every night. We do also offer like a cloud backup as well. If you were interested in something like that, we could do that. But in addition to doing that backup, the system also backs up inside of the CFC folder a copy of your database from that day. So not only is it a copy of your database with your sales data, but a copy of the database as it stands at the end of the day as well. So that way we can easily restore it if we needed to. It doesn't contain any of the sales data. It only contains the database itself with your employees, your items, things like that. If you wanted to do a manual backup of this stuff, you can do that as well. And to do your manual backup inside of here. So say you know you're doing a bunch of changes right now and you want to make sure that the database, you have a copy of it just in case you make a mistake and you need to call us up to get you back up and running. You can go in and make a backup of that by going into Utilities, Aloha Manager, and Backup Database. And you can call it whatever you want. Just going to call this one Changes, so that way you know what they were for, and I'm going to put the date on it. So I'm going to put 11212018 on there. And where do I want to put it? I can leave it to the backups folder we were just in, or if I had a USB drive or something like that I wanted to put it onto, you can go into this list here, find that drive, and choose OK, and that's where it's going to go to. Choose Next. And it's going to make a backup of your database. So now if you were to go through and all of a sudden, oops, I just deleted all my employees on accident, you have a backup of that you can go back to and restore it. So that way you can go back to where you were and start over.
Okay. I think we do have that, but I'll look into that.
Yeah, it's pretty good to always have that backup. It's good to have a backup off the computer as well, because hard drives do die. Things happen to computers. If you have a backup of it someplace else, whether it's a cloud backup or you're doing it with a USB drive, it'll be easier for us to help you if you were to have a problem down the road.
Okay.
And that's it. That's pretty much all we have to cover. That's how you back up your database. Those are the files you should back up if you need to. Any questions on anything from today?
Not really pertaining to today, but I do have a question about when I set up a payment.
Okay.
I was setting up a payment key the other day. I had it marked as a generic. I had it as cash. Mm-hmm. And when I did my checkout, it was in my total cash owed, but we couldn't find it anywhere in any of the reports. Where would that get reported?
So let's once this is done, I can pull up the tender area and kind of look how you have it set up.
When I switched it to current, it showed up on the payment report where I wanted it to go. but it was set up as cash, and we just didn't know where in the report that went.
So when you report it as cash, it does that's going to be a problem. What it does is cash has the ability to lump everything together. That's why you have, a generic cash tender where you put in the dollar amount, but you also have the 1, 5, 10, 20. You have those options in there as well. When you choose to report as cash or set it as cash, it's going to lump it all in as the cash, so you could have those multiple tender types inside of there. So if you were setting up a new tender, what you want to do is inside of here, I wanted reports, payments, tenders. I'm going to create a new tender, and I'm going to just do a new, and you just want a generic one?
Yeah, that's where I put it.
And what did you call it? What type of tender is it?
Well, I was trying to do a bed and breakfast upsell key.
Okay.
So I was naming it BBU.
Okay, so we'll call it that. And you want it to active, and you want it to track. You're probably going to want to choose the amounts whenever they select it. That it's not a flat dollar amount. They put in the dollar amount when they hit it, right? Because you're not going to change on it. Okay, good. You're going to want to choose a position where you want it on the screen. You can go in and put it in any blank area, or if you wanted to, there's already one on here.
Yeah, because I created this one a while ago. Like last night, because I was trying to do a refund to one of my mistakes. And because it was cash and I needed it to current. And then it was telling me that I needed a manager access code. It wasn't even letting me do it last night when I was creating a new key.
Okay. So here's one issue with this. So the first thing is right now you have it says report as cash. And this is one of the things I don't like about Aloha. You have to do this to save it. Because the option when you first set up a new one, so I were to set up BBU, when I first set that up and I go to report as, BBU isn't an option because it actually technically hasn't been created yet because it hasn't been saved. So you have to select another one in here like you did with cash. That makes sense. But once you save it, you want to go back in here and choose BBU. And now when you select that, it's going to report properly. All your tenders are going to break out separately and you're going to see BBU as that tender. If you choose to select over payments, you can do that, but then it's going to automatically assume you're giving cash back on that. So you may or may not. Go ahead.
What does current mean when you do report as?
It was currently set up as report as cash.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and then it shows up on the payment. Okay.
Lumped in with all the cash, yes. And it looks like you have can refund or flagged on that, so that should allow you to refund it. You don't have anything else on here that's going to be an issue. It doesn't look like.
Yeah,
the only
last night. It was just saying I need the manager password, and I'm like, I am a manager. I don't understand why it wasn't working.
So there's two different things it could be. Under payments, tender groups, you want to make sure it's in a tender group that's assigned to you. So in manager right here, assignments, it looks like you have BBU assigned to that, so you can use that tender, and let's make sure the employees can as well. So it looks like only managers can actually apply that payment. Is that the way you want it?
Right.
Okay, so this is set up properly. The other option is under maintenance, labor, job codes.
Okay, so there was my mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's an option in here for can refund, I believe. Where is that? Oh, financial, here we go. It's like allow refund or can refund, something like that. Can I tender to cash? Are you able to refund on other things as well?
Yeah, it was just this key, but I didn't leave it over, so I did forget that part.
Oh, okay. Then that might have been the problem.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the problem.
Okay.
But one other question I have is where you mark it as report as BDU, where does that show up on the report at the end of the day?
So on the checkout or on which report are we referring to?
Like, say I'm going to run a sales report, and I put in $1,000 into that BBU function.
So
Where does it show up? Where does that $1,000 show up here?
it should show up under non-cash payments. So if you have
Under 9
Yep.
Okay.
So you want to
Okay.
make sure when that's in there as well, if you have non-cash payments set up inside of the report, you want to break it out, list all, or list all with values. List all with values is probably what you want, and then list by report as. So what it'll do is it'll break out the BBU with the amount, and it'll also report as BBU.
Okay.
So you want to make sure those are both flagged inside of the non-cash payment section of your sales report.
Okay. Okay. I do have one more other question.
Sure.
Our room service function,
Mm-hmm.
we can set it up to house account where we communicate with the front desk, and we would hit room charge, and we'd hit H151, and that moves our bed and breakfast. Or is there a way I can set up where it says G and like 151 to change the letter in front of it so it interfaces with the front desk?
That would be something we'd have to discuss with the property management system support to see if they would be able to handle that or not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Basically, that's communication with the property management system, and it's what it's requiring in order to properly report on it.
Okay, the property management. Okay. All right, I'll give them a call.
Okay.
All right.
Anything
Well,
else?
thank you for your time. Nope, I appreciate your time.
Okay, sounds good. I will talk to you next month.
All right, sounds good. Have a good thank you.
Have a good holiday.
All right.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.